Tulsi Gabbard suffered a complete failure to explain anything. You will see her in this clip using words, okay? I mean, she is speaking, she is synthesizing synapses in her brain into speech, but beyond that, it's hard to say she's really saying anything. She was questioned yesterday by a number of senators, and it's really bad. It's really, really bad. Here is Senator Mark Warner asking questions about what happened, and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, who has no business even having a security clearance. She couldn't pass an FBI background check if she were subjected to one, which she wasn't. And she is the Director of National Intelligence, and she simply refuses to substantively address the story. This is tough to listen to.
You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security
Council. Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
stated, is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a signal messaging group.
So you were the John Ratcliffe on that chat?
I was.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I provide some context, Senator, to that?
Yes, but I've got a series of questions.
Well, but I think it's important because at the outset you made a couple of comments about signal messaging using encrypted apps. So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration.
Director Ratcliffe, I've got a series of questions. If you're making the statement, the signal is a secure channel.
No, can I answer that? It is.
I've got a series
end decryption. So to finish,
I understand encryption.
It is permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided, Senator, that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels. Right. So those were procedures that were implemented. My staff implemented those processes.
Desperate to filibuster.
Followed those processes, complied with those processes, and finally, just please, so my communications, to be clear, in a signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful, and did not include classified information.
Well, we will make that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee.
And of course, the problem is the lack of classification, if indeed it is the reality, is part of the problem. Because as I told you earlier in the show, everything that was being shared in that text thread is supposed to be classified. Tulsi knows it, or she should, because she's the Director of National Intelligence. We'll get to that. Okay. We then get to another series of questions. Here is Senator Reid. Take a listen to this.
Director Gabbard, were you overseas during any parts of these discussions?
Yes, Senator, I was.
Were you using your private phone or a public phone for the signal discussions?
I won't speak to this because it's under review by the National Security Council.
And I'm so sorry to interrupt. She's now used this phrase a couple of times. Something being under review by the National Security Council, they're acting like it's a Trump card. It's sort of Donald Trump's, my tax returns are under audit. So until the audits finish, I'm not going to be able to show them. Or I can't speak to any, Supreme Court justice nominees who say, oh, I can't really answer that because it's an issue that might come before the court and it's important for me not to speculate. She's acting like a review by the National Security Council is a valid reason for non-response. It's not.
Once that review is complete, I'm sure we'll share the results with the committee.
What is under review? It's a very simple question. Your
right. Which phone were you using?
Private phone or officially issued phone? What could be under review?
National Security Council is reviewing all aspects of how this came to be,
Pathetic.
how the journalist was inadvertently added to the group chat, and what occurred within that chat across the board.
But so you're not going to disclose anything about whether you use the phone?
Nope, she's just not going to answer. Then Senator Mark Kelly had a turn and interestingly asked, do you all know that you're not allowed to discuss even controlled unclassified information on unsecured devices? So question one is, was this stuff classified? It should have been. It seems it may not have been. Mark Kelly goes further. He goes, even the lack of classification would not be permissible material.
So I understand that DoD policy prohibits discussion of even what is called controlled unclassified information, or CUI, on unsecured devices. Are both of you aware of that DoD policy?
I haven't read that policy.
I'm not familiar with the DoD policy, but I would say that the Secretary of Defense is the original classification authority for DoD in deciding what would be classified information.
There you go.
Ms. Gabbard.
Your DNI and your director of the CIA don't actually know what the policy is on a lot of this stuff. And then finally, Tulsi just won't answer questions.
In the signal chain that we have been talking about, was there any mention of a target in Yemen?
Remember, we now know the answer is yes. We have the screenshots. Okay, so just like she's about to answer, we know now that the answer is yes.
I don't remember mention of specific targets.
Any generic target?
I believe there was discussion around targets in general.
Mr. Ratcliffe?
I think that's consistent with my recollection. Again, I don't have access to that. But
Was there any mention, Ms. Gabbard, of a weapon or weapons system?
I don't recall specific weapons systems being named.
We know the answer is yes.
I'm not talking about specific, any weapon or weapons system.
I don't recall specific names of systems or weapons being used.
Her memory suddenly very, very shaky. So we're building up a list. We already saw Mike Waltz's handling of this. He should be fired. We have seen Ratcliffe's and Gabbard's involvement. They should be fired. Let's now talk about Pete Hegseth. Another day, another Tesla story. What is going on with this company? Well, if you go to ground.news/Pacman, you will see how some outlets are covering Tesla and Elon Musk compared to others. The story really is one story, but the way it's told really can change your perspective. And this is the exact problem that our partners at Ground News help to solve. Ground News is the only site that shows you how political bias and financial incentives and even blind spots shape the narratives in the news that you read. Otherwise, you're letting billionaires and political agendas shape everything from public opinion to policy. See every side of the news story, read the news from multiple perspectives, and see through the media bias with reliable news from local and international sources. Go to ground.news/Pacman to get the same top tier Vantage plan that I use at nearly half the cost, just $5 a month. The link is in the description.